Welcome, come along with me as I paint a model horse in acrylics. Unlike some of my older videos, this project won't use an airbrush, and I'll show you how I keep my layers smooth and my color transitions soft with only a paintbrush. My three-dimensional model I'm painting is a customized Breyer horse primed with two light coats of white Duplicolor Sandalwood prime. Since I was planning to paint a mostly white pinto, I decided to try a different technique for painting the pattern, and I started by masking off all of the areas I wanted to keep white. I took my time to apply the masking tape in as convincingly realistic way as I could manage. There are a few tricks to painting smooth and realistic acrylic layers, and the two methods I have found most successful are thin layers and a wet palette. I'm using a store-bought wet palette, and you can easily make these at home from a flat plastic container with a lid, a few layers of damp paper towels, and a top layer of dried parchment paper. These palettes help keep acrylic layers wet and will let you store paint for several days if you close the lid. The second method is thin layers, and to accomplish this I make sure I only have a little paint on my brush, apply it in quick, fast flicks, and work in sections. Here I'm applying a light layer of gold, quickly trying to smooth out areas that are still wet and being careful not to touch areas that have started to dry. You'll notice that these thin layers go on streaky even with good quality paint, as they are just that thin. However, as long as you're using a soft brush and avoiding textural brushstrokes, this pigment streaking will fill in. See? Already more opaque. Notice how the soft brush and thin layers have helped keep the paint smooth and free of texture? Another tip I use is to add slow drying mediums, and I find the airbrush medium in particular is wonderful. It's almost as thin as water and is somewhat self-leveling. I'm mixing this in with gold, Naples yellow, and unbleached titanium to create a shimmery, natural yellow. Because the airbrush medium makes the paint mixture a little transparent, the gold base layer can slightly show through as a warm glow. Another option for slowing dry time and helping blend different colors is glazing medium. It's not as thin as airbrush medium, but still thin enough if I use small amounts. Burnt sienna helps add a reddish orange tone to my horse. As you can see, I work quickly. This is real-time footage. It's not sped up except where marked. I'm also trying to keep this color closer to the edges and away from the Pangea spots like the chest and elbows. It's a subtle change from golden yellow to a soft orange color, and the subtleness helps reduce pigment streaking. What streaking there is, I'm filling in with another pass of that burnt sienna infused pale yellow mixture. When working in thin layers like this, a bit of patience and taking breaks is completely normal. True, it can be tiresome at first if you like quick painting sessions, yet I find the results worth the wait. Adding a mix of unbleached titanium, Naples yellow, and glazing medium to lighten the Pangea again. Now I'm adding burnt umber and more burnt sienna to my previous brown mix to create a darker brown. It's still subtle, and to avoid a splashy look, I keep adding thin layers after each layer dries, gradually darkening the horse. The nice thing about acrylics is the whole process still comes along faster than other media like oil paint. This is a burnt sienna glaze, which just means it's a drop of paint and an equal drop or more of glazing medium to make it transparent. Glazes are an effective way to subtly shift a color. In this case, I'm shifting my whole horse color towards red. Now I go back and forth with all of my colors until I'm happy with the results. Cue some tape peeling satisfaction clips. This technique worked pretty well, except for the areas that were highly muscled and detailed. I think the tape just couldn't really get into those details to protect them, so I sanded the imperfections away as best I could with fine grit sandpaper and a fine grit sanding twig. This is the mix for the muscle and ice: titanium white, Van Dyke brown, and carbon black with a good serving of glazing medium for transparency. I also use this to start the tail, followed by carbon black and then titanium white. Because all the layers are still wet thanks to the glazing medium, they blend for great in-between mixtures right on the model. Then I touch up all those messy patches with titanium white. After drying, I sand away what still needs work, plus any bits of lint, and add more white paint. A finely pointed round brush allows me to add herring details on the edges of the Pinto pattern. It's a little hard to see on camera, but now I'm adding a bit of unbleached titanium and Naples yellow to my titanium white and painting the resulting warm white color into the areas that would have shadow. A tiny bit of burnt sienna creates a soft pink for the thin-tiered areas like behind the elbow. He's almost complete. As an extra detail, I'll paint some mapping. For mapping, I use my creamy white mixture and add in some more airbrush medium to make it transparent. Sometimes I'll add a tiny touch of a blue-based black paint to give it a bluish-gray tint. If you've not heard it before, mapping is that soft edge of color on some Pinto horses, and I find a transparent off-white is most effective at recreating that soft edge. A finely pointed round brush is key, and I paint in the same direction as natural hair growth. As you can see, with a little patience and practice, it's entirely possible to paint a realistic horse with smooth layers, just as smooth as an airbrush, and with some transparency and metallics just as glowing as oil paint. Thank you so much for giving me a little time out of your day, and I hope this inspires you to try painting acrylic models entirely by hand.